Without further ado, it's my great pleasure to welcome our guest. He is the director behind the classic films Lone Star, Mate One, Eight Men Out, The Return of the Secaucus Seven. Let's welcome John Sayles.
Thanks for coming. Merrily We Go to Hell is a pre-code film, and it's a good example of one. The code was something that had already been on the statute books, the Hays Code, and it was the studios trying to not be censored by Congress or local authorities, but say we're going to police ourselves, and we're going to make sure that nothing too salacious goes out and corrupts the American public. They didn't descend from heaven. They actually were responding to a lot of pressure groups, some of the same pressure groups who brought Prohibition to us. This is a movie made in 1932. Prohibition lasted another year, and during Prohibition, people drank more than they ever did before and never do again. So it obviously didn't work. But there were a lot of people who just they certainly, at that time, weren't even ready for divorce, much less critical race theory or any of the things that came later. So in this last gasp before they started really enforcing the code, and you had to send your screenplays to Joseph Green and have him go through them and make little question marks, and you can't say this and you can't do that. They had a lot of titles like this that said, this may be your last chance to see something adult. The Hays Code probably put the American culture back about 50 years. One of the reasons that foreign movies were such a big deal in the 60s and 70s is they had truly adult content, even if it wasn't sexual content. It treated people like something like they might really do in real life. And so that and the alcohol, which I think pervaded the society at that time. Frederick March in this plays a charming drunk, and charming drunks were one of the coins of the realm back then. You just have to think of Scott Fitzgerald and almost everybody in the Algonquin Round Table, Nick and Nora Charles in the series of movies they made of the Thin Man. It was kind of something that people winked at or thought like, well, that's what kind of creative genius people do. They're drunks. Frederick March went on to play. He was very good at playing a drunk in the first talkie, The Star Is Born, and he's playing opposite Sylvia Sidney, who was one of my favorite actresses. She ended up in a Hitchcock movie. She was in Dead End. She always said, "I think the studio pays me by the tear." So you'll see some weeping, which was really, really good at. And one of the things that is notable about this movie is one of the last times in an American movie, until the code kind of evaporated, that you'll see a woman commit adultery and not be struck by lightning in the next movie. And then it was directed by Dorothy Arzner, who was really the only woman who was employed as a director by a major studio at that time. There were very few women directing at all. After the beginnings, the silent era, there were a lot more women who got to direct. And she was a really, really good craftsperson. She was often given kind of B or C material. She didn't get to choose what she directed. And it was awful, well, nobody else wants to do it, let's give it to Dorothy. And she always made more out of it than what was there. And so one of the things that you'll notice about this movie is that it's basically a soap opera script, and she directs it with a screwball comedy energy and pace. And so what you're going to see is a lot of stuff gets done in less than 90 minutes. Thanks for coming.